just your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and today I've got another book review for you. But before we get into that book review, make sure you are liking and subscribing and hitting that bell notification so you can get regular updates for when I put out new content. Post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And occasionally, if I have extra content, I'll just sprinkle that somewhere throughout the week, usually on Thursday. But today, guys, I am talking about Baboosh! Iron Gold! The first book in the second trilogy of the Red Rising Saga. And let me tell you what, guys, this is still a very, very good series. The setup for this book is you are basically 10 years after the end of Morningstar. And, of course, this is going to have mild spoilers for the original Red Rising trilogy because we are dealing with the fallout from basically the consequences from that series. So if you haven't read that, and I start talking about some plot points in here, I may spoil some things for you. So, I'll give you a second. Okay, a second has been given. If you don't want any spoilers, then, go read Red Rising, and then come back. That said, guys, this book does take place, like I said, 10 years post-Morningstar, where basically now Mustang is sovereign, and I forget the title they gave Darrow, but he's basically like the Grand Marshal or the high military leader or what have you of basically the inner the core. Because if you remember at the end of Morningstar, the Rim was isolated after Darrow destroyed their docks, and then the Ash Lord surrendered and fled to Venus, where both the Rim and Venus have maintained the, I believe they fled to Venus and Mercury. But those planets have maintained the hierarchy of gold rules. And then the Rim has kind of embraced all the lower colors. Except it worked on paper, but in practice it's not really working too well. Because all the Reds are being pulled out of the mines on Mars, but then, what do you do with them now? They're not being given meaningful employment, they're not being given the means to support themselves, and then there's a lot of Reds who are just angry, and this is a rebel group called the Red Hand. I can't really get into all of it. There is so much in this book. This book is almost 600 pages, and that's a lot for a Red Rising, and Dark Age is going to be even longer, guys. I am... So, if you know anything about Red Rising, more page count just means more pain, and more bodies, and just more gore, and more death. Which, I mean, this keeps it up with just tons of, razor fights, if you understand the razor. But yeah, there's razor duels in here, there's more political intrigue, there's betrayal. Essentially, the book starts where Darrow has ordered an iron rain on Mercury, and they've finally taken Mercury after 10 years of war, but millions died in the process. And the homecoming that Darrow comes home to is essentially betrayal. A member from his past, or a close friend, will betray him and try and excise him and get him thrown out or arrested. And this causes Darrow to flee in basically disgrace to try and resolve this war once and for all. And it's a fairly well executed book. What we do have here is we have a shift. From the original trilogy, we only saw Darrow's POV. So the entire story is delivered to you through Darrow's eyes. This actually splits it into 4 different POVs here. We do have Darrow still, but we've also got Lyria, who is a Red that we meet on Mars after an attack from the Red Hand. And her family gets killed on Mars, and she is rescued and taken to Luna to try and make a better life for her and the surviving member of her family. And then we have got Ephraim. Ephraim is a very, very angry, I think he's like a former soldier. He's a gray, who is a former soldier who became disenfranchised with the whole Rising, doesn't like and or trust Golds because his husband, his husband was killed and was not saved by the Golds who were supposed to protect him. And so he has turned, basically, he left everything behind. He is a drunk, he is a drug addict, and he is also a world-class thief. And so he's brought in to steal something, which then that job goes sideways, and he gets pulled even deeper into the political intrigue that takes place in this book, and has a greater role to play within the story as a whole. The next POV we have is Lysander. And it took me a little bit to figure out who Lysander was, even though, because it had been a few months since I read the original trilogy. And I was like, who is Lysander? And then I realized that he's with Cassius. And so Lysander is Lysander Alloon, who is a Gold, who was the sovereign from the original Octavia. Octavia Alloon, I believe, is the previous sovereign's name before she was deposed by Darrow, Cassius, and Severo. And, so he is her grandson. And, he is alive and still with Cassius. And they are just kind of running mission to mission, place to place, never staying anywhere too long, not putting down any roots, just trying to kind of stay out of things and help out where they can. But Lysander is becoming disenfranchised with his lot in life. You know, he was born into the sovereign family. He is an Alloon. He is Gold. And he can't quite let that go, where just the might is right. And so we see Lysander really struggle. We see him really struggle here. And ultimately, he's my least favorite POV. I think he's a little bit spoiled. I think he's a little bit bratty. I think he's a bit spineless. I don't like Lysander. Those are my non-spoiler thoughts. If you want my spoiler thoughts, too bad, because I don't swear on camera. I'm kidding. He's not that bad. I'm just being dramatic. Oh, the drama. But, overall, guys, I gave this a good 4 out of 5. It's got decent pacing. But the main problem with the pacing is before, if you're looking at Golden Sun and Morning Star, it is nonstop, just bam, 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 bam. You are going, you are flying. It's twisting, turning, betrayal, backstab, murder, battle, battle, battle. We don't get that here. We actually get a lot more sneaking around and political intrigue. And then we get the occasional, pacing shift where it just flips on a dime. Where, somebody will be doing something and you're just like, oh, okay, the story's going to be moving along, and then BAM! Violence! And so it's just kind of, It can be very, 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 very jarring. But it keeps you kind of, when those scenes hit, you get a good pump of adrenaline. So, I mean, Red Rising is still delivering on that. My overall rating, placement of the book within the saga as overall, of the 5 books that are currently out, I would place this one over Red Rising, but under Morning Star and Golden Sun. I've yet to read Dark Age. I'm hoping to get to that soon. I did hybrid read this, by the way, if you want this information. I did hybrid read this on audiobook and this physical copy. And what they do on the audiobook is, in the original book, in the original trilogy, Tim Gerald Reynolds, I can speka the Anglaise. He did all of the voiceover for the original trilogy. Here, every single POV shifts into a new narrator. I don't know the other narrators' names. Tim Gerald Reynolds still voices Darrow, but Darrow, I think, actually has, the least amount of page count here out of all of the POVs. We get a lot of Lyria, we get a lot of Ephraim, and we get a lot of Lysander. And we get maybe 10 chapters of Darrow. So, I mean, it can be a bit jarring, specifically because the female narrator has, an Irish accent, or is either Irish or Scottish or something like that. So it's a bit jarring, I think, but I think that's meant to infer a Martian accent. So I was kind of okay with that, and she does a fantastic job. Lysander and Ephraim's narrators also do a good job. It just takes a lot of getting used to, and that can either work for you or work against you. Structurally, we don't really constantly shift POVs here, because basically if something's happening and I'm trying to think of how best to put this, and like there's a lot of action going on. What Pierce Brown has done here is he will stick with that POV for 3 or 4 chapters, but if nothing's going on, he's more than happy to rotate POVs throughout sections of the book. So at some sections, you'll be expecting a POV shift to be like left in suspense on a cliffhanger, but he's not going to do that for you. So ultimately, like, the structure is a bit odd, because when you're expecting a POV shift, you may not get that POV shift. And another thing that just kind of what I'm really excited about here is the end, because it's not a cliffhanger, but it is a hook. There is a great hook at the end of this book where basically we've got a cliffhanger with one POV, but then we've got a hook with another, and so it feels like a layered transition into Dark Age, which I really appreciate, because we've got some characters who are in a good position, we've got others who are in a bad position, and we've got others who are just steaming mad. So ultimately, I do give Iron Gold a recommend if you have been thinking about picking up the second trilogy and whether or not it's worth the investment of time and or money to buy, listen, what have you, to the book. Yes, I do think Iron Gold is worth the time. Do not be expecting Morning Star or Golden Sun levels of action or twists and turns, because you're not going to get that here. It is I'm stuttering here. The story is delivered to you in a much more gradual pace with those quick bursts of action. So that said, guys, this is an absolute I would say it's a triumph. Mainly because for a book that I have so many issues with, I still give it a 4 out of 5. I don't know how he pulled it off, because there are certain scenes here where I was groaning, and then there's other times where I was just like, yeah, this is kind of cool, and it's wild. I don't know how Pierce Brown has done it, but I mean, good on you. So definitely, I highly recommend giving this a try, and yeah. That's really all I got to say about Iron Gold right here, guys. So, go ahead and let me know in the comments down below what you thought of Iron Gold. Have you read Red Rising? Do you plan on reading Red Rising? Do you plan on continuing into Iron Gold? Things of that nature. I'd really like to hear your thoughts. I'd like to hear your overall thoughts on Iron Gold itself, because I know that Alan over at the Library of Allenxandria just finished Iron Gold last month, so there should be a lot of people who have just recently read it for the first time, and I would love to talk to you about Iron Gold. Iron Gold! That said, guys, go ahead and check the description down below for the link to the Wizardry Duo Discord. We are an ever-growing community, and we would just love to have you. Till next time, guys. Peace out. Stay magical. Bye.